All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. How's it going? How are you feeling? It is the day before game day. It's Wednesday. Sorry, I was a little late today. It's been a crazy day. It's been a busy day, but I still had to come live, do what we got to do. It's just a very stressful day. So sorry I'm running late, but here we are live. Got another Target shirt. You know we had to do it. Day 7 Target shirt. Sponsor me, please. We ain't gonna stop wearing the Target shirt. So how's everybody doing? Let's talk a little Niner football today, shall we? Let's talk about, Kyle Shanahan was on KMBR. He reiterated some of the things he said yesterday, and there's a game tomorrow. We'll talk about that. So, let's do what we got to do. What's up, Big Fish? Nia Perez, let's go. How are y'all doing today? It's Wednesday. How's everybody feeling? I hope everybody's doing good. Kyle Shanahan did talk to the media today. Well, technically, he was on KMBR. He wasn't talking to the reporters or anything. So a little bit more laid back, and he discussed a lot of things today. The biggest news of what he discussed was cornerback Charvarius Ward. He said Charvarius Ward will be back next week, and they'll be able to ramp him up. And, they were safe with them. They were cautious with them. That's great news. We really need Charvarius Ward to be healthy along with Emmanuel Mosley. And both of those guys were having some hamstring and muscle strain issues. Those things can be a little pesky, and they can linger. So the good news is Charvarius Ward will be back next week. That's huge. I mean, the health of this team is very important, right? We need to make sure that everybody stays healthy. We need to make sure that everybody doesn't get hurt. There's some big injuries that could happen that could really derail us. And so far, there hasn't been big injuries, and I'm excited about that. So it was nice to hear some positive news today, right? So Charvarius Ward will be back, and Emmanuel Mosley came back this week. So I think by week 1 we'll have our lockdown duo at cornerback, and that's nice. The only thing we may not have is Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward. Let's talk about what Kyle Shanahan did talk about with Jimmy Ward. He kind of stated that the Jimmy Ward injury is a little bit more serious than people want to believe. He did say Jimmy Ward's dealing with a serious injury. We have some guys that are there, and then he said he did bring in Tashawn Gibson this week, and he's going to battle for a roster spot. So it sounds like if Gibson can do what he needs to do to make the roster, he's a veteran. He might learn the scheme pretty quick and be able to figure it out on a fly, and that's why they brought in a veteran, because that's what veterans can do, right? Is they could come in, they don't need to have to be taught all this stuff. They could kind of pick it up, and if he's serviceable and he can show that he's good enough, which he'll probably get the opportunity this Thursday, he might be playing a few games until Jimmy Ward's back. So, because Kyle Shanahan did say that it's a pretty significant hamstring injury. I don't like to hear that. It is something that I caught today when I was listening to my boy Kyle Shanahan. He did say this is what he said. Let's get the. He did say. Let me kind of pull up the tweets. Trying to find it. Let's see. Yeah, he did say that Jimmy Ward's hamstring injury is a little bit more serious, and that that's why they brought in a guy like Tashawn Gibson, and hopefully he could compete for that 53-man roster. So I don't know. I hope that Jimmy Ward is healthy and he doesn't miss too much time. But based on what Kyle said today, if he doesn't get healthy over the next couple of weeks, we have one game this week which he won't play, and you have basically 2 weeks until the week 1 game. If he's not ready for week 1, we got to make sure that the depth is okay. So there we go. Slasher Gamer, happy Wednesday. What's up? Boom, Roberto says the Slasher Gamer says, too many muscle injuries to start the year, don't you think? Yeah, I agree. Too many soft tissue injuries. I just don't like these injuries. They're piling up, and right now they're not major, but these are injuries that can become major. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily like these injuries. A hamstring strain, a calf strain, a groin strain. These little injuries, they take a few weeks to recover from, and these guys are playing at a high level and they're running so hard. So you know what I mean? It's one of those things where if they start adding up down the line, they might come back to haunt the team. So I do not like the fact that we're having a lot of these weird little injuries popping up. Again, it goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago. I feel like they don't stretch enough. I don't know. I hate to say it. I mean, I'm sure they have great trainers. I'm sure they have the best of the best. I mean, they changed their training staff years ago, when everybody was dogging them. But the fact of the matter is, they're still getting these soft tissue injuries. So to me, it tells me they're not stretching enough. You know, Marcos, what's up? Joshua, what's up? Deb Topio, what's up? What's up, everybody? How are we doing? How are we feeling? So yeah, that is a little concerning. A little concerning. So there was some other news today. So we did get Sam Schluter. He went back to the injured reserve. Basically, he cleared waivers and he goes on to the 49ers injured reserve. So not like huge news, but this was a guy that was cut. They, put him down off the roster to make a final cut, and now he's on the injured reserve. He might end up eventually down the line becoming a practice squad player or something. And that's one of the tricks I think the Niners are going to implement in this roster. You got a lot of players that are on the bubble, like a guy like Ambry Thomas, and we talked about it yesterday. They might actually waive him to the injured reserve or cut him and place him on injured reserve, and he could just stay stashed there, and then you don't have to waste the roster spot on a guy that right now is still battling for a spot. So it is a little interesting with the guy like Ambry Thomas and a lot of other people, and that's what this week is for. Houston versus the 49ers. That is today, that is tomorrow. Today we want to talk about the upcoming storylines before that game. So as we know, Kyle Shanahan says they're not going to play Trey Lance more than a half, and that's more than enough for us, right? That's more than enough to kind of get our appetite. He says he expects the starters to play a couple of drives versus the Texans. It's good to know that we're going to see some starters tomorrow, and we're going to see a few drives. I think that's very, very exciting. That's going to be very fun to see, right? We're going to see Trey Lance. We're going to see my boy Deebo Samuel. We're going to see Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Ayuk's getting a lot of credit. Kyle Shanahan talked about Brandon Ayuk today, and he says he just really developed. He stepped up. He became a big-time part of this team, and he's transforming to a leader. He says he was never in the doghouse. He just, I think he wanted Ayuk to realize that there's so much more you need to do to be a top-flight receiver on this team. And he says second half of last year, it really clicked with him, and he came into this offseason like on that same momentum, and he just took off. And he says Brandon Ayuk's becoming a leader. So it's going to be nice to see a guy like Ayuk and Deebo and Kittle and all these guys get some action for a few drives. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, brick by brick tonight. That's going to be fun. Predicting a score for the game. Yeah, let's predict a score. I don't know. You guys dropped your score predictions. I'm thinking that we're going to have a final score. With starters are going to be in. They might score 2 drives. I'm going to say we got a Niners 27, Texans 13. I'm going to say 27-13. That's my score. I mean, you got a few drives by the starters. This defense is nasty. You have potentially a blockbuster offense. I think the starters put up at least 2 touchdowns. You get 14 out of them. The rest of these guys can put up 13 points. You got 27 to 10 or 13. That's what I'm thinking. It's going to be fun to see this front line. It's going to be on defense. It's going to be fun to see these starters go in there. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. We won't get to see all the starting cornerbacks because, again, Ward and Mosley still ramping up from injury. So, yeah. Let's see. And then we got to talk about O-line, right? There's a lot of O-line questions that are coming up. I think I pretty much have narrowed down who I feel is going to make this offensive line. But there's a few guys that, are going to maybe not make the final roster, but they're going to try to kind of get positioned to make the practice squad. Like you have Nick Zakelj, Donovan West, you got a Justin Skule. Those types of guys, they're probably not going to make the final roster. But Nick Zakelj and Donovan West, those 2 guys are solid players. They could probably get cut, stashed on the practice squad. I think so. I think your starting O-line is going to be, of course, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel. You got Spencer Burford, and then McGlinchey. But McGlinchey is dealing with an injury, so you got Colton McKivitz, and that's who Kyle Shanahan said is going to probably start right now is Colton McKivitz. He was cut last year, and he kind of came back with the vengeance, and then the coaches must have seen a big improvement of him, and they like him, and he's right now jockeying for that starting right tackle spot until McGlinchey's settled in. He did say that McGlinchey is dealing with something in his knee, and unfortunately, he's got something done to it. I think it's the PRP. We talked about that, the plasma injections. He always gets those, and they're going to see how it feels. They said they're going to let him rest and then see how he feels next week. Again, this Mike McGlinchey situation just does not sound good, but they do have Colton McKivitz, who they're very high on this year. Again, he must have done something that really impressed them compared to last year, because, again, he was cut last year. Then you have Jalen Moore, who's back this week. He's back in practice. He was dealing with the lower leg injury, but they like Jalen Moore, and that's a guy that you could throw in there. So I think McKivitz, Jalen Moore, they make this team. And then you got Dan Brunskill, who could play anywhere on the line. He's your utility man. He's going to make this roster. And then Jason Poe, man. Jason Poe has been absolutely phenomenal, man. I think this guy is going to be a story that you're going to be like, man, what a draft story. Undrafted player out of Mercer. Nobody really knows, much about this guy. He had a phenomenal draft film. His draft tape was phenomenal. Nobody even knew him because he didn't go to the combine. He didn't go to the Senior Bowl. So he posts a video on Twitter, and he tags like all the draft scouts and everybody. And it blew up, and they started talking about him. Daniel Jeremiah of Move the Sticks started talking about the guy, and he started getting his name noticed. And I'm sure people started scouting him a little bit. But a small school guy, Jason Poe, he's gonna make this roster on the 53-man roster. The dude was a undrafted guy. That's gonna be a story to write a book about eventually. Again, this guy can become a starter down the line. I love it. Pizza Poe, that's right. What's up, CG Ruthless, my man? How you doing? How you feeling? So it's going to be interesting to see the battle on who's going to, try to make this 53-man roster on the O-line. But again, I'm pretty sure that's penciling. I'm penciling in those guys as making the O-line. But the rest of these guys is going to see who makes the practice squad. But I think they're going to keep Nick Zakel. They drafted him this year. He's kind of this future guy they're going to keep around, maybe play center. He looks like he has the ability. And then Donovan West, undrafted guy. I think they're going to keep him around and develop him. And that's what the Niners do. They get a lot of talent, and they develop them. And then when the guy is developed to the point and they can't afford him, they let him go, and then they bring in the next guy. And they just keep repeating, keep recycling. You got a guy like Azeez Al-Shahir. Several years ago, he was an undrafted player, and then he was a backup, and practice squad, and he worked his way onto the roster. And then now he's a star linebacker on the team who's in a contract season, and he's probably going to get paid big next year. I don't know if the Niners are going to be able to sign him up to return. So this is what they do. But they have guys that are on the practice squad or will potentially be on the practice squad, like McCrary Ball. This guy looks phenomenal. He could probably be in Azeez's position in 2-3 years from now. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see the way they develop it. And that's what I love about the Niners is they just know how to develop so many players. It's good to see. It's good to see. So it is good to see all the development that the Niners do. Let's get to some of these questions. What's up, Raj? What's up, Arun? How's it going? How you feeling? So the other question is running back. We've been talking about running back a whole lot lately, and this is probably the most polarizing pick. This is probably the most controversial pick, right? You're going to have a guy in Trey Sermon who most fans don't think should belong on the roster. And I think if he wasn't drafted as high as he was, he probably wouldn't have all this chatter of, oh, yeah, we can't cut Trey Sermon. Again, he hasn't really produced, but he hasn't played against the first-team line. And this is a big game for Trey Sermon. I don't think they would cut Trey Sermon, but 49ers Twitter do not like Trey Sermon, and they would love to see him get cut. So this is kind of a big game because, again, you have another guy, Jordan Mason, who's been shining. This guy's stock has went sky high. And if the Niners cut Jordan Mason, people are going to be pissed off. I mean, I'm going to be mad, right? I'm going to be mad. I'm not too happy about losing Jordan Mason if they were potentially going to cut him. You know what I mean? So that's a little scary to think that you have all this talent, but somebody's going to have to get cut, because this team develops and they draft and they scout players so well. I don't know. I feel like it is probably one of the most difficult roster cuts that the Niners have had in a long time. Probably the hardest roster cut decision since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over. I really feel this is the most difficult roster cut that they've had to make. Ezekiel says, going to Houston tomorrow for the game. Let's go. Slasher Gamer says, if the 49ers cut Mason, I'm going on strike. I think we all are. If the 49ers cut Jordan Mason, I think we're all going to be pissed off. We're going to be going on strike. But let me tell you this. I think tomorrow, and I've said this earlier this week, that every single running back needs to get a chance to run behind the first team line. Because it's not fair. Because if Jordan Mason goes berserk against the third team, it's cool. But can he do it against the first team? You know what I mean? Give him a few carries against the first team. Then Trey Sermon. Let's see what he does against the first team. Let's see what TDP can do against the first team. But I guess it's a good problem to have because you have so many good running backs. But again, if I'm thinking about running backs right now, I say Elijah Mitchell makes it. You got to count Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, and then you got Jeff Wilson Jr., who hasn't done anything to not make the team, and he's a veteran, and he's Kyle Shanahan has him high on the depth chart. Those guys make the team, and then you have probably Ty Davis-Price, who makes the roster. He's a young rookie that's been very effective, and he's shown a lot of promise over the last couple of weeks. And then it comes down to three guys. Then it comes down to JaMychal Hasty, Trey Sermon, and Jordan Mason. And JaMychal Hasty has proven that he belongs on this team this year on preseason. Again, he always knows how to bring what he needs to bring during preseason. Again, he can catch out of the backfield. He can play special teams. So he's versatile. Kyle likes those versatile guys. So if it comes down to it, JaMychal Hasty's shown more abilities over the last couple of weeks than most of these guys. So I think JaMychal has a very big chance of making this roster. So we got to look at that running back position tomorrow against Houston. That's one of the big positions I'm going to keep my eye on, So it's going to be tough. Hey, Peter Parker, what's good? He says, happy Kobe Day. Happy Kobe Day to you. Mamba mentality. Let's hope the Niners have a Mamba mentality tomorrow and get that dub. Arvin says, if Kyle can keep Jalen Hurd on the roster for years, they'll keep Trey. You know what? That's a good – there you go. Right there. I couldn't have said it any better. If the 49ers can keep Jalen Hurd was given chance after chance after chance after damn chance, and they finally cut him after a very long, tumultuous time in the Niners. I mean, he came back, got injured, got injured. It's unfortunate for him. We all know the talent, and I think that's what everybody saw was, this guy has talent. But he could never stay healthy. And then Trey Sermon has talent, but he's never been able to stay relatively healthy so far. He did get hurt last year, right? And then early in the preseason, I think he had a hamstring. And then he got the neck injury, but that wasn't his fault. It was a weird tackle when he was taking that run. He was just banged up a little bit last year, and he's banged up this year. He had the ankle issue. It just don't feel good for Trey Sermon. It's going to end badly if it doesn't get any better anytime soon. So it's going to be tough. Arun says Jalen was kept on the IR. Yeah, they kept him. They were hoping this man would get healthy. They gave him a lot of chances. I mean, should have cut him they should have cut him a long time back. But the potential he had, and when he finally got on the field, everybody was like, oh, here we go. And you just could tell he just never really was able to play the way he needed to because he was a very physical player. Never got to play the way he needed to because of the injuries. It just limited him. So, Trey needs to go on the PUP. Actually, wouldn't be a bad idea. Put him on the PUP or some type of injury list so you don't have to worry about losing him. You can stash him. And I think that's a smart move because if they cut Trey Sermon and hope that he can land on the practice squad, I don't know if he can clear the waivers. But does Kyle Shanahan give a shit at that point? If he cuts Trey Sermon and hopes to get on waivers, I don't think he matters. I don't think he cares because you have Jordan Mason and TDP and some great running backs on the team. But any one of them they cut, I think will get claimed by another team. Obviously, I mean, they're all good running backs. They all have talent. Shanahan knows running system. So I don't ultimately think they're going to cut Trey Sermon just because of that draft value. Again, he was a third-round pick. But again, if you scale that away, if you don't look at draft pick-wise, he hasn't done what he needs to do to impress anybody on the roster. But Kyle's spoken highly of him. So we'll see. But again, tomorrow, Houston, this is going to be a big story to keep an eye on. Who is going to do well enough to stay on the roster running back-wise? And this is what we have to look. Tomorrow, again, is a big day for a lot of these roster bubble guys, these backups, these people that might potentially make the 53. And even if they don't make the 53, Kyle has to be smart with it to make sure that he doesn't lose these guys to waivers, because there's going to be some guys that get cut. There's going to be some guys that get stashed. If he knows they have to keep a guy that may not make the final roster, but he wants to put him on 53, he's got to be smart with it. And sometimes you just got to take a gamble with cutting players like Dante Johnson. You can cut him, and you know for a fact that nobody's going to claim him, but you know he's versatile. You know he knows the system. And if you ever need a Dante Johnson back at some point in the season, you can bring him back and say, okay, Dante, we got an injury, come back, we'll get you on the team. So that's why he brings in guys like that, and he has a lot of those through the years. He always has people that he can bring back and say, hey, look, we need you, we'll sign you, a couple games, injuries, boom. So he can cut a guy like Dante Johnson, but he'll still technically be on the team, if you know what I mean, So that's going to be interesting to see. Who does he cut? Who does he keep around? Who does he keep on the practice squad? And that's what you got to watch for tomorrow. Tight end. It's another battle, right? We saw Tanner Hudson get cut, but we got Tyler Croft is still there. We got Charlie Warner. We got Ross Dwelly, and then who's the other guy they have? They have the other guy. Can't think of his name. His name's escaping me. Tight end. What's the guy's name? I can't think of his name. He's got that funky name. But in any case, you got a roster battle ensuing with tight end. Does Kyle keep 4 tight ends, or will he keep 3? I think there's only 3 good enough to make the roster, but I think Tyler Croft can sneak into this roster with a good game. So it is definitely something to keep an eye on. The tight end's definitely a roster battle that has kind of been ongoing through this off season, and it's a battle that there really hasn't been anybody that stepped up enough to take that final spot. I think Charlie Warner definitely makes it because of his blocking abilities. Last year he was pretty much your tight end too, but Ross Dwelly hasn't done enough over the last 2 years to really separate himself and develop where we wanted to. Tyler Croft, again, he's not like special, but he hasn't done any worse than Ross Dwelly. So again, it's going to be a weird little position battle, and I feel like Kyle Shanahan likes to keep 4 tight ends. He likes to keep 4 tight ends on this team. The Slasher says, do you think Lance should make more of an effort to make chemistry with Kittle, since tight end could be a QB best friend? I think he has. I think he has made a good effort. I feel like he has made chemistry over the last couple of weeks. At training camp, I noticed a lot. As it started, he was really favoring Brandon Ayuk, but towards the end, they started connecting more. I think their chemistry will evolve as the season goes too, because we don't always see what's going on behind the locker room and all those things. But I definitely think that Trey Lance knows if he can get chemistry with George Kittle, it's going to help him out, not just in the locker room, but on the field, because Kittle's definitely one of their better players, and he's so good at everything he does. And you're right, a tight end, a good tight end, a big target like that can be a quarterback's best friend, especially a young quarterback. I think that he should be smart in making a bigger effort in making chemistry with George Kittle, and even Debo and everybody. Like, he's got to make chemistry with everybody, and I'm sure he's doing a good job of it. Again, during training camp, you could see like that was developing towards the end. So Juan says, what do you think about the secondary? I like the secondary. I'm really excited. I think this year we have a very, very, very good secondary, and I'm excited. They just have to stay healthy. I'm a little worried about Jimmy Ward's injury initially. I hope it doesn't become anything bigger, but Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley coming back this week has been huge. We have great depth. Yamador Lenore has really been nice. Sam Womack has been a bright spot. So, and some other guys too. I think they have a very solid secondary, And then you got players that are on the bubble that might make the practice squad. Taylor Hawkins, he's played good. Quantrez Knight. Those 2 guys have been absolutely incredible as younger players. But I feel like they'll be cut and they'll be placed on the practice squad, and they'll be developed. Those guys are going to be good down the line. And then maybe Castro Fields gets cut and they put him on the practice squad. So you have a lot of players that won't make the team, but they have good abilities and potential and will be developed later on, because some of them are still, they're young. They're not where they need to be, but they flashed some potential here and there. And when you have those types of guys, again, you just stash them on the practice squad. So it'll be nice to see some of these backup cornerbacks and linebackers. My man, 49ers Raj says, you think McCrary Ball makes it? I don't think he makes the final roster, but he's definitely going to stay on the practice squad. They have great linebackers, You know, you have too many good ones on this team, and unfortunately, McCrary Ball, as good as he's been, he's not going to make it past Warner, Greenlaw, Aziz, Oren Burks, who's been phenomenal, and then Flanagan Fowles, because Flanagan Fowles and Oren Burks are really good at special teams too, so they can add in that department. I'm not saying McCrary Ball isn't, but they're younger and they're still able to be developed. So I think McCrary Ball and Saguna Olube will make the practice squad. Those two guys have been pretty solid throughout training camp, and I think they make the practice squad. So Arun Singh says Ambry Thomas. We talked about him, and I think that he's going to get placed on the injured reserve or some type of injury list, and then they can just stash him. I don't think he makes the final roster technically, but they can put him on an injury list and worry about him later. I don't think they want to cut Ambry Thomas. That wouldn't be good for his mental. You know, he is a third-round pick, and I think they have high hopes for him. But based on what Kyle Shanahan said yesterday, he goes, "I just want to see Ambry compete to make this roster." So I don't think that I don't think he ends up on the technical roster, but I think he gets stashed on an injured reserve or something like that. Slasher Gamer says Teray has played well, and I believe he has. I think he makes the final roster, and that's another position that we have to kind of keep an eye on, right? That D-line is ferocious. There's a lot of talent. Obviously, we know Bosa, Armstead, Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu. Those guys will make it. You know, they'll be making it. That's 6 guys right there. Then who's going to make it after that? You know, you have Hassan Ridgeway, Kerry Hyder, Jordan Willis. You know, those guys, will they make that final roster? Alex Barrett. You know, there's some guys on there that are still capable of making this team, but then if they don't, might get picked up somewhere else, or maybe they want to stash them on a injury list. So this is a tough D line to crack, man. It's a very stout, Kevin Givens. This is a very stout D line. I mean, this D line is so incredibly talented. You cut anybody, and they can go play on another roster, probably start. So I'm going to keep an eye on that battle at D line of the backups: Alex Barrett, Hassan Ridgeway, right? Kerry Hyder. Which one of those guys is going to stay on this team? Which guy is going to make it on the 53? Who's going to make the practice squad? Kevin Givens, right? Like those guys, they might be backups, but man, they are solid. Kamoko Teray, those guys all have a high motor, and a few of them aren't going to make this roster. I think they keep maybe 10 D linemen, but there's still going to be 3 or 4 guys that you are like, shit, man, they're so good, but they can't make it to the team yet. So practice squad, you know, they'll probably keep some of these guys on the practice squad. I'm telling you, if they cut the wrong guy, they'll get cut. They'll get signed up real quick. I don't even know if Kerry Hyder makes this final roster. To be honest with you, I like Kerry Hyder, but I don't think he makes this final roster. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Lucas, what's good, Lucas? How you doing? How we feeling? Drop some questions if y'all want. Shout out to everybody on the chat. We got 63 eyes on the chat. Shout out. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome. It's Wednesday. We got a game tomorrow. Hit that like button on your way in if you don't mind. I appreciate everybody here. You know, we got a big game. I'm excited. The starters are playing tomorrow. Trey Lance gets to play some drives, and I couldn't be more excited. You got Kittle. I mean, we're going to see the starters tomorrow. I don't think you guys realize how happy I am that we get to see Trey Lance and the starters. I don't know. It's going to be a good night. It's going to be fun. I just hope we get a big-time performance in the few drives that we get out of the starters. But, you know, the starters sometimes could be rusty. It is a preseason game, and this is why you play a preseason game, to get those cobwebs out and you know, get the rust out. So, you know. Trevor Marks says, Raiders get ready to take the L New Year's Eve, little boy. Debtopia says she's interested to see how Brendel does at center. I am too. He's never started at center, and I'm a skeptic Brendel guy. I don't know. I think he obviously Kyle Shanahan knows who works for his team. He knows who can play in his scheme, but Jake Brendel's never been a starter in the league, and he's been in the league for a very long time. He's been in the league for multiple years, so he's a veteran, a career backup. But this is a big opportunity for him. If he does good, then he just might have found a place or found a role, or he can get a big contract. So this is kind of a big year for Mr. Brendel, But they do have guys that can play center in the future. Again, Nick Zakel, Donovan West, 2 guys that they're going to keep on the practice squad most likely, that can, battle them for next year. Next year coming. if Brendel comes in and he just dominates and you're like, whoa, this guy has it, then those two guys next year, they're going to be fighting to stay on the roster for the future and years to come. So if he sucks this year, then those guys are going to be able to get their opportunity to come in and maybe even this year, if they show some skills and talent and they're looking really good in practice, they're going to be like, yo, let's give him a shot. Might as well. If Brendel's not looking good, they're going to give him a shot. So this is a big year for Brendel. I really want to see what he can do. I have high hopes though because this D line, this O line, you have a solid run game, and I know Shanahan knows how to get the most out of these guys, and he knows how to scheme things. And you got Trent Williams on one side. I'm not worried about Spencer Burford. This guy's a dog. I'm just worried about how the center situations to be because center is important, and you got to get the ball to your quarterback. If you screw that up, the whole play's screwed up. So we'll see. Lucas says, is Trey Sermon getting cut for you? I see. We talked about this earlier. I don't think Trey Sermon gets cut. It's going to be close. It's going to be a controversial call. Either way. If he either gets cut or not, either way, it's going to be a very controversial decision. I don't know what's going to happen, but if I had to make a prediction, I'm telling you, I don't think that Trey Sermon gets cut next week. I really don't. Daddy Kittle in the building. Listen, what's up, Daddy Kittle? Trevor Marks says, watch for Poe or West. I like Jason Poe, man. This guy, I feel eventually Jason Poe will be starting on this line somewhere. Somewhere on this line, Jason Poe will be starting. I'm excited for it. Hey, Peter Parker says, my bad, Rod. Got my tickets for Rams at Niners Monday Night Football. Best birthday present. Spend my 37th surrounded by the faithful. Happy early birthday to you, my man. That's going to be a hell of a birthday. Monday Night Football against the Rams. I hope we give them a big I hope the Niners get a big L and the Rams take I hope the Niners take a big dub and hand the Rams a big L on your birthday. I hope we don't take a big L. I hope the Niners get a dub on your birthday. That's what I'm hoping for. Arun says 2 rookie offensive guards, Bradford and Poe as starters. I mean, I think Poe could start eventually, but I don't think that they're going to start him over Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks hasn't done anything bad. See, this is the thing. I saw a lot of people commenting and posting today, like Aaron Banks, they should get rid of him or he's terrible. Aaron Banks has had a pretty solid offseason in training camp. If you ask me, he's probably been one of the risers. I like what I've seen out of Aaron Banks. I think he's going to stay solid. Obviously, he has big shoes to fill with Laken Tomlinson. And I know Jason Poe has a lot of hype. There's a lot of, people excited for my man Jason Poe. But I don't think that you just start Jason Poe right over Aaron Banks. I think Jason Poe can start on this line, but maybe at center, maybe at right guard, and then you move Spencer Burford over to right tackle. So I don't think you move Poe in for Banks unless he gets hurt or if something drastic happens to him. Because Aaron Banks has actually progressed very well. I think he's doing good so far. He's had a few ups and downs here and there, but everybody's going to. He's young. They drafted him with the 2nd round pick last year, so I don't think they're just going to give up on him that fast. I think Aaron Banks, Spencer Burford, 2 young guys, are going to get their abilities and their chances this year. And Jason Poe eventually will start, but, he's still got a lot to learn. He's young, but the fact that he makes this roster, if he does next week, which I assume he will, it's a great story. The fact that he was undrafted, small school, and he makes it to the final roster, I mean, it's incredible. Banks looking nice. Media, what's good? Arun says, what about Gutierrez? I think he means Gutierrez. I don't think he makes the final roster. I think he makes the practice squad. Happy for him that he finally got in the game. It was good to see. It was nice to see him get his first snaps of his NFL career, but I don't think he's done near enough to make the 53-man roster. He's going to make it to the practice squad. I mean, he hasn't done anything. 49ers Media says, what are your thoughts on Trey Sermon? We talked about him. He wants to know, does he make the team? Some fans think he will get cut. Again, I don't think that Trey Sermon gets cut. Some fans are going to be unhappy, but I think he stays on the roster. Hey, Peter Parker, Burford and Banks are going to rock people all year long. I'm telling you, those 2 guys, they're going to have some growing pains here and there, but they've really developed nicely. And Shanahan has given them a lot of opportunities, ample time to play and really develop this offseason. I like what they've done. I love how they've played them both throughout the preseason and really gave them every single rep they could get that he could squeeze out of them. So by the time week 1 comes, they'll have a lot of seasoning, in a short amount of time. So I think Burford and Banks will be okay. The law firm of Burford and Banks Incorporated, they're coming at you, man, and I can't wait to see what they do this year. The more, you think about it, this starting O-line's not bad. A lot of people sit here and say, oh, this O-line's going to be trash, but it's going to be fun. My man Wayne Breezy, he says the Raiders ain't beating shit. We tagged somebody from earlier in the chat on the live. I pinned the comment. Raiders for life says, Raiders are going to beat y'all. Just saying, no hate. How are you going to put no hate at the end of that sentence? Raiders going to beat y'all. Just saying, no hate, man. Raiders are not going to beat the Niners. I can't wait for that game. That's probably one of the biggest games of the year. That's going to be one of the most talked about games of the year. New Year's Day in Vegas, oh my God, you're asking for an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I mean, God, players in Vegas on New Year's Eve and then a football game the next day. Let's just hope we stay safe and nothing stupid happens. But that's going to be a very, very fun game. Marco says Derek Carr is mid. I think he is too. But hey, they got a good squad. They got a good team. You can't hate on them. I think they have a pretty good team in the AFC West. That's going to be a dogfight just like the NFC West. But Niners, Raiders, the rivalry, you throw out anything and you just go at that. And it's going to be a battle. It's definitely a big rivalry. I kind of miss the days when Oakland, or when they played in Oakland, man, because it was a big rivalry. Obviously, it still is, but not like those days. It was like turf war. It was like turf battle, like a gang fight. You got Raiders out in Oakland. You got the Niners out in SF, and it was a blood fight. It was a turf war. Fun times. My man Wayne, what's good? How you feeling? How you doing, big boy? We gotta chop it up live sometime soon. Me and Wayne, we gotta get back on the show together. We're gonna probably set that up soon. But shout out to my man Breezy. Go follow the guy on all platforms, YouTube and Instagram. You know the vibes. Go follow Wayne. He's a good dude. Let's drop some more questions on here as we keep talking about Houston and Niners tomorrow. Lucas says, is Purdy staying? I think he has a chance of making the 53-man roster. But as you get closer to it and you kind of start peeling away the layers of this roster and you start seeing what Kyle Shanahan has to kind of do. And again, we're probably going to have 10 D linemen. We're probably going to have 9 O linemen. That's 19 players out of 53. And then the running back position. Then you got 5 or 6 wide receivers. And we got to get to wide receivers. So, and then maybe 10 defensive backs. That you start getting a little cramped. I don't know if Purdy makes it to that final roster spot because of all the other players you got to put. But I think that they can. I think Kyle might feel comfortable enough with letting him go to waivers and clear and then putting him on the practice squad to develop. But I still think there's an outside chance that Brock Purdy makes the 53-man roster and Shanahan keeps 3 quarterbacks. If he doesn't take 4 tight ends, I honestly think he'll keep 3 quarterbacks because you need that depth. You just need that. And I just don't think there's 4 tight ends good enough to make this roster. Again, Charlie Warner, you got Kittle, you got Ross Dwelly, Tyler Kroft, maybe. I don't think that I don't think Tyler Kroft or Ross Dwelly's, that big of a difference. You keep one of them and you're fine. But I know Kyle likes to block a lot, and Charlie Warner can block, George Kittle can block, Tyler Kroft, Ross Dwelly, the guy can't block. He can't block. So, again, how many tight ends is Kyle going to keep? He likes to keep 4. But if he keeps 3, I think he might keep Brock Purdy on this roster. It's definitely going to be tough. My man Breezy says, Purdy is going to the squad because no one is going to need a QB. He will clear waivers and hit this practice squad. Yeah, and I kind of agree with that, too, in the terms of their league is pretty much set at quarterback, so they don't really need a guy. The team that you got to be a little scared about, though, sneaking a guy, would be the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks, let's be honest, they got Geno Smith and who's the other guy? Drew Lock. Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle would take a guy like Brock Purdy. That's the only team I can see that say, oh, The Niners drop Brock Purdy. Let's add him to the game. But I do think that Kyle Shanahan ultimately feels safe enough to cut Brock Purdy. He'll clear waivers, and they can put him on the practice squad. I do agree with that way. That I feel like that's what's going on in Kyle Shanahan's head the closer I get to this draft cut. But if Brock Purdy leaves no crumbs this weekend or tomorrow night, he's going to make it a little bit tough for Kyle Shanahan to say, maybe we should have gone on the 53. But again, 53-man roster is the best 53 players that gives you a chance to win on Sundays, sometimes Mondays, and even occasionally Thursdays. Best 53 players. You don't need 3 quarterbacks, but Kyle Shanahan might do it. Because, again, there's strategy involved. Just strategy involved. Is Brock Purdy better than Smith and Locke? Maybe. I don't know. Geno Smith is terrible. Drew Lock, I don't think he's much better. Yeah. My man Wayne says, let's see. Debtopia says Seattle is playing to get the number 1 pick next year. I'm thinking they are, but I mean, we'll see how they go. I'm sure Pete Carroll believes that he has a good team because he's Pete Carroll. But honestly, I could see them being one of the teams that are in contention for the number 1 pick. I just don't think they're that strong of a team. O-line's banged up. They don't have Russell Wilson anymore. Russell Wilson carried them a lot of years. Defense lost a lot of key players. You got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but who's throwing them the ball? So, Gregory says, how do you feel about Jason Verrett? You think he could start week 5? He's got to make it back to the roster first, and they're not going to rush him. I know he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, but when he comes back, it's not like he's going to be right away cornerback 1. You got 2 dogs, Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley. Jason Verrett is going to be icing on the cake. If we get him back this season, great depth. He's going to be their veteran clubhouse leader, and they can rotate him in and not have him to take a lot of strain on his knees. And he's going to be a guy late in the season that can help and give us some depth and give us some, veteran leadership out there. I don't think you just rush him and say, oh, because Jason Verrett's back, you start him right away. Charvarius Ward is going to be a dog, and Emmanuel Mosley, he's in a contract year. I think both of those guys can have Pro Bowl type years. So why take out 2 Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks for a guy that's just coming off an ACL repair? I know it doesn't make sense to me, but I think Jason Verrett will be back some point this year, but they don't need to rush him. You have a luxury in the fact that you really put a lot of focus and emphasis on your backfield, your defensive backfield, and Jason Verrett could come in, and they don't have to rush him right away. So I don't think he starts week 5. There's no way. Patek says, what if he comes back washed? I mean, it's definitely a possibility. If he does, then he does. But we got good young players. And if he comes back washed, he'll be a great, washed-up veteran leader. A washed-up veteran leader. That's what he'll be. And he'll be on the sidelines, washed up, giving them support, being their biggest hype man. Let's hope he doesn't come back washed up. Oh, man. Yeah, Verrett says he's an insurance policy. Exactly. Oh, man. Let me get to some of these comments. Y'all are going wild in the comments. I love it. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Marco says, hit that like button, baby. Show some love. Let's go. Let's get that like button up. Let's go. How do I watch the NFL Plus on your TV? I have NFL Plus, but I haven't tried watching it on my TV. I think it's just stream on phone or iPad. I don't know. I haven't tried looking on my TV. I just stream it on my iPad. I should probably learn how to do that. But I do have NFL Network and everything, and they play the games locally. So, unfortunately, I don't know. I'll try to figure that out for you. Let's see. Mavericks, is Mason the best running back on the roster? Should he get bulk of the carries tomorrow? I don't think he's the best running back on the roster right now, but he has potential to be in Shanahan's offense. He's just one of those undrafted guys that Shanahan finds every year, and you're like, holy crap, he tears it up. And then now you're starting to sit there and say, is he the best? I still think Elijah Mitchell's the best running back on this roster, but Elijah Mitchell gets hurt a lot in this roster, and I feel like every running back gets hurt on this roster because of the fact that they run the ball so much. They just pound the rock down the field, and they run at a high level, and they run physically. So you need depth. But I still think Elijah Mitchell's your best running back on the roster. But man, Jordan Mason, he's been looking impressive, and he's been playing against the third string and the backup. I don't want to take anything away from him, but we haven't seen what Jordan Mason could do against starters. So we have to kind of temper expectations. Now let's see what if Jordan Mason gets uh, put into the starting lineup and he still does what he's doing. Then yeah, Jordan Mason might be the best running back on the roster. But right now it's Elijah Mitchell. He's done what he did last year. Set the Niners rookie record at rushing yards against starters in the league. He had a hell of a season. He missed 6 games and still almost had 1,000 yards rushing. Guy's great. I just hope he can stay healthy. But Jordan Mason, this guy is going to be sneaky because if Mitchell gets hurt or if Jeff Wilson gets hurt or somebody gets hurt on this roster, Jordan Mason is going to come in and get a big opportunity, a massive opportunity. And same with Ty Davis-Price. So the slasher says, if you run tough, this is a good comment. If you run tough and hard and can read the zone blocking system, a running back can succeed in Shanahan's system. Pretty much. You have to be able to be a violent, physical, quick runner, and you have to know how to hit those holes. And if you can run that in that zone scheme effectively, man, you're going to thrive in Shanahan's system. If you have speed and you get through those holes, I mean, it's going to be 6 yards in a cloud of dust, man. And I feel that's what Sermon's been lacking. He doesn't have that burst that you need. He doesn't have that physical burst that just some of these running backs have. With that, you see these guys, they cut and go. They cut and go. Trey Sermon, that initial burst just doesn't seem to be there. I don't know. You think Tashawn Gibson can make the team, says Gregory. Kyle talked about that today, and he says he's going to battle on this roster because Jimmy Ward's hamstring injury might be a little bit more serious than they thought. So he has a chance. They did sign him. He's a veteran. He could come right in, and if he impresses them this week, I think he might make the roster. But it really depends on the backups now. So you have Georgia Odom. He looked good this offseason. He's looking like he's going to make the team. And, of course, special teams guy. You got Hufanga, who's looking good, and he's really impressed them. Tarvarius Moore, I think he's on the bubble. He's, had his ups and downs, but he's been coming off a big injury. So I still think that Tarvarius Moore and Tashawn Gibson might battle for that final safety spot. But ultimately, Gibson kind of came on late. He was more of this depth piece to get through the preseason. And if, he doesn't really stand out too much this Thursday, I don't think that he makes the final roster. I think he has a chance, though. If you're asking, does he have a chance? Of course he has a chance. He's a veteran, and he's not a bad guy. And I think if Jimmy Ward's injury is very significant, they might say we might have to put Tashawn Gibson in the roster. But I feel that he won't make the 53-man roster right now. But it might change tomorrow night. I'll let you know tomorrow night. Isaac says 65 watching, only 24 likes. Let's hit that like button. Let's get those likes up, Eddie. Patek says Tariq Castro looked pretty good so far. I don't think I've seen him give up a catch. Yeah, he's looked solid. He just, he's not 100% where he needs to be. I think he'll make the practice squad. He's flashed some abilities here and there. I think they want him to get a little stronger. He's still light. He's still a project type of guy, but he's a guy that going to be a big future piece of this team, and I think they drafted him with that in mind. A lot of these draft picks are, drafted with the future in mind. Some of them come in right away and start. Some of them come right away, and you're like, oh, wow, this is a good player. But I think Tariq Castro Fields is a guy that they're going to they'll waive him, and then he'll make the practice squad. But he's shown some nice plays here and there, Yeah, Lucas, we need safety depth. We kind of do, because of the Jimmy Ward situation. If he didn't get hurt, I don't think we'd be even worried about it. But because Jimmy Ward's such a big part of this defense, we're kind of at this point where we're kind of like, man, it was good that we picked up Tashawn Gibson. But if Jimmy Ward's injury is very significant, we might need to worry. But I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping that we really have kind of dodged a bullet with this situation. But we'll see, man. Maverick, do you think Jordan Mason will make the roster? That is the $1 million question. I want to hope that he makes this team, because if he doesn't, we know someone's picking him up. We know someone's picking up Jordan Mason if he doesn't make this roster. If he goes out tomorrow and he leaves no crumbs and he dominates the Houston Texans game, you can't leave him off this roster. You can't leave him off the roster. They might have to take a 6 running back. And speaking of 6 players, you got to go to wide receiver. There's 5 locks to make this team. Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. 5 locks to make the roster at wide receiver. Do you take a 6th wide receiver, and who is it? It's Malik Turner. If Malik Turner has another good game and he stands out, I think you keep him on this roster. I think he can clear waivers, though. So ultimately, it's not a big idea if he doesn't make the roster. I think he can clear waivers, and you can practice squad him. But, I mean, Malik Turner has really had a good preseason and a great training camp. He's really stood out, and he plays great special teams. Last week, he had that peanut punch. He forced the fumble. I mean, he's a heads-up player, man, and I think this guy's been hustling. In training camp, he was hustling. He made that big one-handed catch, and he was making big catches all training camp, and he kind of, turned it over to the post preseason. I like Malik Turner. I think if you're going to pick a 6 wide receiver, that's your guy. I don't think anybody else is good enough to make this roster. No disrespect. Johnson, Snead, any of these guys I don't think can make this final roster. They might get practice squad, but I think that Malik Turner has done a good enough job to make this 53. But do they keep 6 receivers? I don't know. Maverick says Mason will not clear waivers. We got to keep him. I agree. I don't think he clears waivers, man. And I honestly think this is going to be one of the most controversial. This is going to be one of the most difficult roster cuts the Niners have had to make. We're going to lose some good players, and it's not going to be. There's going to be some feelings hurt. There's going to be some feelings hurt next week. I can feel it. I hope not. There's going to be some fucking feelings hurt. DeAndre Johnson says, is Drake Jackson okay from preseason week 1? Yes, sir. Did you see him in my man? Did you see him in week 2? Week 2, baby? He was shining and guying. Man, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you what. Drake Jackson, give him 4, give him 5 weeks, give him 6 weeks. As he continues to learn the NFL, as he continues to get his technique down, as he continues to train with Chris Kasurg and this defense, this man's going to be gunning and shining. Give him a year. Next year, I mean, a full year in the NFL with the way he's kind of been playing. I mean, this guy's scary. I said he's a steal at 61. I want to tell you this right now, man, that Drake Jackson is a steal of the draft. I can't believe it. But, yeah, 100%, he's okay. He did play this last week against the Vikings, and he was ripping it up, man. He was playing very good. He had 4 pressures. He led the team, tied with Willis. He had 4 pressures on defense. That's impressive. He's a young man on the rise. D-Jack playing like a first-round pick. Hell yeah, Drake Jackson playing like a first-round pick, my man. Kai says, are Ward and Mosley ready for week 1? According to Shanahan, they should be ready to roll for week 1. That is great news. That is phenomenal news. I'm excited. We need our lockdown corner. Can you imagine having 2 lockdown corners? I just don't know how excited I'm going to be because I've been hyped up all offseason. I don't think you guys realize how great the secondary might be this year. With a dominating front 7 and 2 lockdown corners back there, oh, it's going to be so nice not committing penalties and pass interferences and getting trucked by a fucking running back. Oh, God. I'm telling you, that secondary last year gave me nightmares. It gave me nightmares. It was like watching Freddy Krueger when I was 5 years old. Fucking nightmare. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking, oh, my God, Drake Kirkpatrick. Oh, Josh Norman waking up with cold sweats thinking about the Niners secondary trying to cover one of these receivers in the league. Cold sweats. Kai, remember Drake Kirkpatrick? Yeah, you remember him getting trucked by the running back? He got trucked by a running back. They took him out of the game right after that. He never came back to the Niners. He never came back after that. Yes, Debbie, I've been wanting better cornerbacks for years. Jonathan says, every deep ball, I had a feeling it was going for a PI. Me too. I was like, this man's about to hold. He's about to hold the guy like that. We're holding on for dear life. Josh Norman nightmares. Oh my God, man. Those are some. It wasn't just last year. There's been dark days at cornerback for a very long time. R.W. McCorders, God, Mike Rumpf. We've had some very bad cornerbacks on this roster. So I'm so excited to have two players that might just be lockdown city. God, man. I'm excited. My man Batcher says, I'm depressed and need help. Can I hear some words of wisdom from you? You know what? I don't know what you're going through, but honestly, keep your head up, man. No matter what you're going through, you'll get through it. Promise you, man. Every day is a good day if you're above if you're above land and you're up and you're breathing and your pulse is racing. You know, if you're breathing and you're alive, it's a good day, man. So I'm sorry you're going through some bad stuff. You know, we all go through things. Trust myself. I look like I'm doing great right now. I look like I'm happy. I'm vibing. I'm hyped up doing this live stream for you. But trust me, man, I'm going through shit myself. So at the end of the day, it's hard sometimes. Life gives you, you know, some bad obstacles. They give you lemons, right? They always say life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, shit, it's true, man, because I was down for a couple days here and there about some certain things. But at the end of the day, you can't let it get to you no matter what you're going through, man. Keep your head up and you will get better from it, and things will pass, and all bad things will come to an end. And I'm telling you, man, just keep your head up. And I'm sorry you're going through anything bad, but trust me, keep your head up, and things will get better. Everything happens for a reason in life, and unfortunately, we have bad things happen. But push through it, keep grinding, and then if you need anybody to talk to, definitely hit me up, man. So. Brian Allen. Whew. Yeah, that was bad. I didn't feel bad for. Am I still in debt from school? Yeah, I still got some loans to pay off, man. That shit is brutal. I'm telling you, man, brutal to go to any postgraduate school. All those loans. We're getting close to 100 viewers. Hit the like button. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate all of you. Any final questions, concerns? I'm excited for football tomorrow, and I think we're going to have a hell of a game. Again, I think we're going to win 27 to about 13. I don't know what you guys think of, but what do you guys think about the score? Drop your comments on there. Bay Area, how am I doing? I'm doing okay today. How you feel about the game tomorrow? Again, I'm excited. I think the Niners are going to catch a dub. I think it's going to be great. IG Live today. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. Playboy says, after tomorrow, the real season starts. Oh, man. Am I worried about the interceptions in practice? We talking about, why would I be worried about interceptions in practice? It's practice. The defense is going to win some battles. The defense is, look, here's the thing, and I've said it before. You cannot worry about interceptions, about stats in practice. I don't know who started coming up with keeping track of stats in practice. They never did this years ago. They never talked about, oh, well, this quarterback was 17 of 22 in practice. He was 10 of 30 in practice. Come on, George. Did you see that Joe Montana was 7 of 21 in practice today? He threw 2 interceptions. Did you see Ronnie Lott intercepted Joe Montana? And they don't fucking care about that. Come on, man. It's practice, and you got to realize they're not game planning. They're not out there, studying film on the 49ers defense. They know each other's plays. They know the script. Shanahan scripts half the plays, and they're just practicing their plays that they're going to do against other teams. So, no, I'm not worried about stats in practice and interceptions in practice. I hope to God that the 49ers defense is going out and balling out because they know everything that's coming at them when they play their own team. Now, if we start throwing interceptions on other teams, then you start to worry. But it's practice. Practice is practice. Of course, you're going to make mistakes, but this is where you learn from. I'm not worried about it. You get better through practice. You go to practice to make those mistakes, like homework. How many times you make a mistake on homework? How many times do you make mistakes on, practice tests? You learn from that. You've taken practice tests your whole life, right? And you screw up, and then you read those practice answers, and you don't mess up on the real test. And that's what practice is all about. You screw up in practice, you learn from it, you watch the film, and you're like, okay, I won't make that mistake against another team. So, and you game plan, you do film prep. When you're going up against another team, It's a whole different ballgame. You're doing film prep, you're studying plays, you're going through your, all your film and all the game planning that the coach has given to you. It's a whole different beast. So I think we're going to wrap it up, though, today. So I know Brick by Brick's coming soon. Patek says he's 19 and he needs a job. Should he get one? I mean, depends what your goals are. Are you in school? I was working when I was like 15, so I think you should get a job. It's always good to have a little side job there when you're 19. Learn some responsibility, pay some bills, get your own money. I think it's smart. You should definitely get a job. You always want to continue to add to your resume. So I would get a job if I were you. You want some money? Go get some work. Go get some work. Post shorts. Your channel could get bigger in a short time. I definitely will. I'll definitely post more. Just been been busy, but I got to post more. You're right. But yeah, anyways, appreciate the support, guys. We got up to 92 viewers today. That's pretty good. Hit that like button, and I appreciate, again, all the support. I really do. So have a good rest of your day, and take care. Bang, bang, and again.